The real acceleration was our profit margins. So they literally doubled. In some cases, I think we more than doubled the overall profit margin month on month. So Prominence Global is an agency that's just 100% dedicated to the LinkedIn platform.
Can you share a little bit around, like, real practically, what have been some of the revenue or profit percentage increases?
I think at our worst, we got down to sort of single digit. We're under 10%, and then to go from let's say 10% to sort of 40%.
Yeah, and I think you're going from 10 to 40. You go, oh, like that's an increase of 30. But actually, really what it is, that's actually a 300% increase. So if you're making 100K, and you do that, and now you're making 400K in 1 year, and you've done an amazing job doing that.
In past business, I was always just focused on more turnover equaled more profit. Now, I'm much more savvy around, profit margin, and so accelerate that along with turnover, and things get pretty sweet pretty quick.
So what are the tools that you pulled from us that have helped you to execute so well, Adam?
The integrated action method. So the whole process of really thinking through that process, and what are the tasks, and right down to the the 20-minute increments, which we do 3 times a year. So for me, that's a big game changer.
What were the biggest challenges you found around the ability to scale and to grow the team?
Well, there was just more jobs than there were people to fill them. And then, all the things like culture, and trying to build a company culture that everyone felt, a part of. I have to be honest, I didn't really do a great job of that in the early days. Good people leaving or underperforming. If people don't feel appreciated, they tend to, do the minimum viable amount of work, as opposed to when they're very happy and they're very motivated, they'll jump through fire for you.
What's been some of the tools, the templates, the mindset shifts around the culture piece that's made the biggest difference for you that you learned through AG?
So making sure that you're bringing people on at the right time, that you're planning ahead of time for, when revenue hits this level or sales hits this level, you're already down the track of knowing that's the next step you have to take. So those tools were really, really helpful in making sure that we onboarded the right people and at the right time.
How long have you been working with AG for now?
Well, basically from day one when we started, which actually is coming up 10 years next week.
So it goes quickly. What have been some of the darkest times that you've had, given that your industry is changing all the times?
I think we lost something like 35% of our revenue, which, to any business is pretty significant. And it forced us to go through the hero's journey of having to really think about, one, how we were going to manage that, and two, how we were going to insulate ourselves from it happening again. So I never really had a war chest of cash prior to this. And even when we hit that thing, we had that. So we had cash buckets in the business, and in my personal, we had our own personal cash, so that we was like, I think we had like 6 months. It was like, okay, if we've got to, if cash is going to dry up for a while, how long can we kind of survive without the business funding it? And I remember in the previous businesses, every time that 3-month GST thing came, it was like, oh, and now it's just like, whatever, it's already there. So I haven't worried about a GST payment in 3-4 years. Doesn't matter how calm a person you are, how many years you've been in business, there's nothing worse than not having the cash there to take care of a family. Your mindset starts to go into cost cutting, but often you then cut out things that you still really need, like certain team members and different things. And then, you come out the other side of it, which is great, but then your ability to accelerate out of the other side of it is hampered because you don't have the team, you don't have the resources.
What would be like the top insights or parts of what we do in AG that's really helped you to accelerate and to scale?
I tripled down on my critical thinking, which meant the amount of time that I spent out of the business thinking about the work that needs to happen, on the business. I do my best thinking walking on the beach. So it was a good two-edged sword. Got some good exercise, got some fresh air, and I like the sunrise. So be down at the beach at sunrise, and spending that time, really thinking through, the week ahead and the months ahead, And but doing that, I think the other key of that is it's all good again to say, oh, I'm doing critical thinking, but are you doing it effectively? Like,
Mm.
is there a structure to it? Is there a process to it? And that's, again, in the tool set of the AG tools. There's ways you do that in a very, very effective way. And I think if I had a third one, I just think it's that community, the live events where we all get together and things like that, to be able to just be immersed in those people who are kind of on the same journey in a different way. It's really a game changer to be able to
Mm.
have that resource there.
What's different now compared to in previously when you had the other businesses?
Well, in the other businesses, didn't have that. I wasn't part of any communities or business coaching. It's like, well, here's a problem. Now I've got to go and find, work out the solutions. You might find three or four options for a solution, and if you get that wrong, not only do you lose money, you lose time. As opposed to you got you guys that have already researched many of these things and go, this is the path.
Well, anyone can make mistakes, so that's okay. So our job is to have people to reduce the amount of decisions they have to make and just make one or two that are the most critical. But then learning from everyone else means that if you can speed up time, and the way we think about it is we compress the time, but we accelerate the results for people. If you're thinking about where Prominence Global is at the moment, what's the vision for the business as you see going forward now?
The vision for the business itself doesn't really change, but my personal vision is to become more of almost like a chairman of the board as opposed to the CEO of the business itself. And so, yeah, I'm working with you and the team on how do we do that effectively and put the right things in place at the right time. So I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a lot of companies that think that but never actually get there because that actually don't implement, don't think about it far
Yeah.
enough out to put it in
Yeah.
place.
Well, there's two really important pieces there, and Stephen Covey said it around begin with the end in mind. And people go, I'll begin with the end in mind, but then they forget about it and they don't actually put the things into place. So the two kind of principles that I heard you say that we talk about all the time is how do you create an exitable business? You don't necessarily have to exit, but you're building it to be exitable. When people go to the place I want to exit, it's kind of like too late.
If I look back to even the early days where we weren't doing that, it wasn't that we weren't growing and kind of getting stuff done, but we were nowhere near as effective. And I think that probably one of the biggest lessons of it is the lesson of taking things off your plate and delegation.
Yeah, I love it. Finish this sentence. I almost didn't become a member of Abundance Global because
Of the dollar investment in the monthly program. Because when you're in that somewhat startup mode, you're thinking about cash flow. Of course, it's much lower than it is later on in the journey, and when you think about the really critical things that you got to pay the rent, you got to have the team to implement, you got to do marketing, all that sort of thing. It's a real dumb tax to think, the thing I could do without is the that coaching and community and stuff like that. I think that there's a saying you use all the time. Even a professional golfer can't see his own swing.
who would you recommend Abundance Global to?
Well, anyone that just wants to actually succeed in business, it's something like 85% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years. And I think that the number of those that probably wouldn't have failed if they part of a program like this and implemented the learnings at an early stage would be much, much lower.
Yeah, love it. And is there anything else that you'd like to share? Anything about your journey, or your insights that you think would be inspiring for someone else as well?
Probably, I think the real force multiplier right now is the amount of time that you guys are investing into emerging technologies. AI and things that are really going to massively change robots and all the different stuff. So it's so easy to now go down so many rabbit holes of these tools and things that are around, and so to have a team there that's actually really testing them, finding the best ones, and then going, hey, just use this one. That I think is in the coming next sort of 12, 24 months is probably worth the journey alone, let alone everything else.
I agree. I agree. Love it. Well, bud, we're super proud of everything you've done and how you give and receive. The saying, when the tide comes in, all boats rise. You're an amazing advocate for that, and how you bring so many people on the journey. So for us, we're super proud of all the efforts and the work that you put in. I want to say a massive thank you.
Thanks, David, and obviously likewise back to you and the amazing team that you've built.